An Amish farmer in Lancaster County bends a single piece of copper pipe into a shape that has not changed in 4,500 years. He pushes it into the soil beside his tomatoes. No wires, no batteries, no fertilizer, no grid. Within 2 weeks, his plants are taller, thicker, and producing fruit faster than anything in the neighboring fields, running on synthetic nitrogen and drip irrigation. He has never read a single study on electromagnetism. He does not own a multimeter. He does not know the word electroculture. But what he does know is something his grandfather told him when he was 9 years old. Copper talks to the ground, and the ground talks back. The shape he bends that pipe into is a spiral. A clockwise ascending spiral, 7 turns, pointed skyward, planted at the base of every row. And the reason you were never taught this in any agriculture program, any extension office, or any gardening book printed after 1936 is the same reason they buried earth batteries, biochar, and sound frequency farming. It does not require a repeat purchase. This is the electric soil secret, and it starts with a question nobody in the fertilizer industry wants you to ask. What if the ground already has everything your plants need, and all it takes is a bent piece of copper to unlock it? But before I reveal the full system, if you are a backyard grower tired of pouring money into chemical fertilizers that destroy your soil year after year, I have put together a free harvest blueprint. It contains 7 zero-cost fertilizer replacements that independent growers have tested head-to-head against Miracle-Gro and the lazy no-dig method that eliminates weeding permanently. One of my readers, Dan, used the fertilizer trick alone, and his tomatoes grew double the size of his neighbors. To grab your free copy and a weekly forgotten gardening secret, click the first link in the description or scan the QR code on screen right now.
An Amish farmer in Lancaster County bends a single piece of copper pipe into a shape that has not changed in 4,500 years. He pushes it into the soil beside his tomatoes. No wires, no batteries, no fertilizer, no grid. Within 2 weeks, his plants are taller, thicker, and producing fruit faster than anything in the neighboring fields, running on synthetic nitrogen and drip irrigation. He has never read a single study on electromagnetism. He does not own a multimeter. He does not know the word electroculture. But what he does know is something his grandfather told him when he was 9 years old. Copper talks to the ground, and the ground talks back, the shape he bends that pipe into is a spiral. A clockwise ascending spiral, 7 turns, pointed skyward, planted at the base of every row, and the reason you were never taught this in any agriculture program, any extension office, or any gardening book printed after 1936 is the same reason they buried earth batteries, biochar, and sound frequency farming. It does not require a repeat purchase. This is the electric soil secret, and it starts with a question nobody in the fertilizer industry wants you to ask. What if the ground already has everything your plants need, and all it takes is a bent piece of copper to unlock it? But before I reveal the full system, if you are a backyard grower tired of pouring money into chemical fertilizers that destroy your soil year after year, I have put together a free harvest blueprint. It contains 7 zero-cost fertilizer replacements that independent growers have tested head-to-head against Miracle-Gro, and the lazy no-dig method that eliminates weeding permanently. One of my readers, Dan, used the fertilizer trick alone, and his tomatoes grew double the size of his neighbors. To grab your free copy and a weekly forgotten gardening secret, click the first link in the description or scan the QR code on screen right now. Here is what the Amish understand that modern agriculture forgot. The soil is not dead. It is electric. Every handful of healthy earth contains billions of microorganisms generating measurable voltage as they decompose organic matter. The moisture between soil particles acts as an electrolyte. The minerals act as conductors. The entire ground beneath your feet is a living battery running at low voltage. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and it has been doing this since long before the first human planted a seed. The Amish never plugged into the grid. They never adopted synthetic inputs. And yet, Lancaster County Amish farms consistently produce yields that match or exceed their industrialized neighbors on smaller acreage, with fewer inputs, season after season, generation after generation. Agricultural researchers have studied this for decades, and usually credit crop rotation. composting, and horse-drawn tillage. All of that is true, but there is one practice that never makes it into the university papers because it sounds too simple to be real. Amish growers have used copper implements in their soil for over a century. Not steel, not iron, copper. And when you understand what copper does in contact with living soil, the simplicity becomes the point. The Austrian naturalist Victor Schauberger documented this in the early 20th century. Iron tools, he observed, disrupted the natural magnetism of soil. Iron particles shed from plows and hoes created microscopic rust films that sealed soil capillaries, reduced moisture retention, and attracted pests. Copper tools did the opposite. They preserved the soil's electromagnetic structure. They deposited trace copper through abrasion, an essential micronutrient that plants need for enzyme function and chlorophyll production. And they did not interfere with the delicate electrical relationships between roots, fungi, and microbial communities underground. Schauberger's conclusion was direct. Iron kills the soil slowly. Copper feeds it. The Amish did not read Schauberger. They did not need to. They observed the same thing through 300 years of unbroken practice, and then they took it a step further. The practice that never gets published is the bending. Certain Amish growers do not just use copper in the soil, they shape it. Specifically, they wind copper wire or thin copper pipe into a clockwise ascending spiral around a wooden stake and drive it into the garden bed, one per row, pointed at the sky, and they orient it. This is not decoration, this is antenna design. A clockwise copper spiral is, in electrical engineering terms, a helical antenna. It collects ambient electromagnetic energy from the atmosphere, energy that exists constantly in the form of the Earth's Schumann resonance, static charge differentials between the ground and the ionosphere, and the planet's own magnetic field, and it channels that energy downward through the copper into the soil. The copper does not generate electricity, it receives it. The spiral shape determines what frequencies it captures, in the same way that the length and shape of a radio antenna determine what stations it picks up. A clockwise spiral tuned to the right height and number of turns resonates with the natural frequencies that biological systems already operate on. A Belgian agronomist named Yannick van Doorn has spent over 15 years testing exactly this. In controlled field experiments, he measured a 69% increase in potato yields using copper antennas placed in the growing beds, not 69%. More foliage, 69% more actual harvested potatoes. From the same soil, same water, same sunlight. His students across Europe report similar gains with tomatoes, zucchini, peppers, herbs, and leafy greens. When he placed seed potatoes under a copper pyramid for 48 hours before planting, the treated potatoes produced double the yield of untreated controls from the same batch. Double, from 2 days inside a geometric copper shape. Now connect that to what the Amish have been doing quietly for generations without publishing a single paper, and a picture begins forming that the mainstream does not want assembled. In 1949, a Czechoslovakian radio engineer named Karol Drebal walked into the patent office in Prague with something that should not have worked. A small cardboard pyramid built to the exact proportions of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its purpose, to maintain the sharpness of razor blades placed inside it. No electricity, no mechanical action, no chemicals, just a hollow geometric shape and a specific angle, 51 degrees and 52 minutes. The examiners told him to leave. He did not leave. He spent the next decade building a theoretical framework arguing that the pyramid shape concentrates the Earth's magnetic field lines, creating a microenvironment that restores the crystalline structure of a blade's edge. The chief patent examiner, a metallurgist, finally took a prototype home and tested it personally. Over the following years, he completed 1,778 shaves across 16 blades, an average of 111 shaves per blade. Without the pyramid, each blade lasted about 5 shaves. In 1959, Czechoslovak patent number 91304 was granted. Here is the detail that changes everything. That specific angle, 51 degrees, is not arbitrary. When a 4-sided pyramid is built to that slope, the perimeter of its base divided by twice its height equals pi. The slant height of each face divided by half the base length equals phi, the golden ratio, 1.618, a single geometric structure encoding the two most fundamental mathematical constants simultaneously. No other angle does this, no other shape does this, and the golden ratio is the single most recurring proportion in living biological systems on Earth. It governs the spiral of a nautilus shell, the seed pattern of a sunflower, the branching of trees, and the double helix of DNA itself, a copper structure. Built to this angle is not built to an arbitrary ratio. It is built to the ratio that life already uses to organize itself. The geometry speaks the same mathematical language as the biology beneath it. So here is how the complete Amish-inspired copper energy system works when you put it all together. 3 layers. Each one functions independently. Combined, they create something none of them can produce alone. Layer 1 is the copper spiral antenna. Take 6-gauge solid copper wire, not coated, not insulated, bare copper. Wind it clockwise around a wooden dowel or bamboo stake, 7 full turns, ascending from the bottom. The finished spiral should stand roughly 3 to 4 feet above the soil surface. Plant the stake deep enough to anchor orient it so the spiral rises from south to north if you are in the northern hemisphere. Place 1 antenna every 6 to 8 feet along the garden bed. Total cost, under $5 per antenna. This spiral collects atmospheric electromagnetic energy and delivers it into the root zone. The soil's moisture and mineral content act as a natural electrolyte, distributing the charge laterally through the bed. Roots grow toward the copper through a documented biological response called electrotropism. Plants do not just tolerate electricity, they seek it. Layer 2 sits underground. This is the buried wood core, the same principle behind hugelkultur, the ancient Germanic raised bed technique. Dig a trench 2 feet deep along the center of the bed, fill the bottom with untreated hardwood logs, oak, maple, birch, apple, pack smaller branches and wood chips into the gaps, cover with a nitrogen layer of kitchen scraps, grass clippings, or leaf mulch. This buried wood becomes 3 things simultaneously: a water reservoir that stores several times its weight in moisture, a thermal engine that generates heat as microbes decompose the cellulose, and a microbial fuel cell that releases electrons, actual measurable electrical current, directly into the surrounding soil. Experienced hugelkultur builders report that irrigation becomes unnecessary after the 2nd season because the buried wood regulates moisture from below. Layer 3 is the charcoal bridge. Crush clean hardwood lump charcoal to gravel-sized pieces. Soak it for 48 hours in compost tea or diluted worm castings to charge the pores with nutrients and beneficial microbes. Mix the charged biochar into compost at 10 to 15% by volume and spread it for 2 6 inches deep over the buried wood layer. This charcoal will never decompose. It will remain in the ground for centuries, holding nutrients, hosting microorganisms, and, critically, conducting electricity. Peer-reviewed studies confirm that biochar increases the electrical conductivity of any soil it is added to. This means the atmospheric energy collected by the copper antenna above ground now has a superior conductive pathway deep into the root zone. The antenna reaches further. The buried wood generates more current. The biochar connects everything. The copper antenna is the receiver. The buried wood is the generator. The biochar is the wiring. The soil is the electrolyte, and the plants are the beneficiaries of a passive energy system that gets stronger every year. It sits in the ground while costing absolutely nothing to operate. In 1918, the British government established the Electroculture Committee under the Ministry of Agriculture. It was staffed with some of the most credentialed scientists in the country, including Nobel laureates. For nearly 2 decades, the committee collected field data from farms across Britain documenting substantial crop yield increases using electrical methods applied to soil. In 1936, every report produced by that committee was stamped not for publication and sealed. The committee was dissolved. Academic citations for electroculture dropped over 90% in the following decades. What happened in 1936? The synthetic fertilizer industry entered its exponential growth phase. American farmers spent $300 million on synthetic fertilizer in 1945. By 1975, that number exceeded $3 billion. Today, the global fertilizer market surpasses $200 billion annually. The pesticide market adds another $60 billion. Both depend entirely on repeat purchases every single season. A copper spiral costs $5 and lasts forever. Biochar costs pennies per handful and persists for centuries. Buried wood is free. No one in a $260 billion industry has an incentive to tell you that a bent piece of copper and a buried log can replace their entire product line. No conspiracy memo was needed. The market rewarded the consumable and ignored the permanent. The science was not disproven. It was defunded.